it is, and I am lovingly going to mute everyone. That damn foghorn. Hang on just a second.
I'm looking around the room.
Let me mute everyone. Trish, you will have to unmute.
Nope, not gonna. Won't do it.
Well, you're going to have a hard time running the show tonight then, aren't you?
I'll do it. You just won't hear me.
Okay.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 153, where it says, in the chapter Working with Others, which confuses us because we're not reading that chapter, and it will end on page 156, where it says God might give him mastery. And our study portion tonight will start on page 156, where it says, one morning he took, and will end on page 158, where it says, from which he was long absent. And are there any announcements?
Hi, family. My name is Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. Good to be with all of you tonight. Our delegate will be off at General Service Conference over this next weekend and through the 3rd. So when I get a post-conference report, I will let you all know what it is, or it will be done on Zoom, and you can just zoom in and listen to the post-conference report. The only other thing that I have for you right now is July 4th, Picklepalooza here at my house, and you all are welcome to come. And when I run out of beds and tents, I'll just hang hammocks from the trees, and we can all hang in the trees like possums, and it'll all be good. So if you'd like to come and you haven't made arrangements yet, it might be something to think about. So get with me or Trish for the details. So that being said, moving on with the meeting. And again, good. Oh, and I forgot.
I got it.
Oh, okay. I forgot to kill that doorbell. I hate that doorbell. So, and again, good evening, family. My name is Jamie. I'm a very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing as not to distract others or possibly even yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God and let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's invite those cute little monks in to help us get God centered. So enjoy your time with God, folks. We'll see you in a few minutes. And for those of you who wish to join us in our fog light prayer, it's on your screen in front of you. Fog light prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Heather.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Heather, and I am your recovered alcoholic secretary. I have asked Terry to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what exactly it means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry, Pickled Chips recovered alcoholic. Recovered, we are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured, that presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23 of the big book. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when only the elements of sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is there anybody celebrating a milestone this week that would like to be recognized? All right. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by Buzzard Mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our seventh tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase the big book and to take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week. And thank you for letting me be your alcoholic secretary tonight.
Thank you, Sassy Pickle and Pickle Chips, for your service tonight. From Chapter 2, There is a Solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 12. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 1. Please refer to page 562 of our book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And Marilyn, come on in.
Hi everyone, my name is Marilyn and I'm an alcoholic. Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. That was taken from the Big Book, page 178, but also there's a little bit more I'll read. Tradition 1 also came from Language of the Heart, and that's on page 76. That was in December 1947. And the long form of Tradition 1, each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare comes first, but individual welfare follows close after. And before I read Tradition 1, I'd like to, I think this is pretty cool. I think for me, this will help me to practice these principles in all my affairs too, because I have to take a look at myself and my behavior. So I have a little, this is from the AA Grapevine. It's a tradition checklist. So I think, to me, this is very important because it keeps me in the right frame of mind, because it's so easy to try and start justifying things and, oh, why it should be my way. So I'll read this one first, because it's something, like I said, something to think about. 1, am I my group a healing, mending, integrating person? I am also decisive. Do I ever gossip or take another member's inventory? Am I a peacemaker, or do I foster statements such as just for the sake of discussion? Am I gentle with those who rub me the wrong way, or am I sometimes abrasive? Do I make competitive AA remarks such as comparing one group with another, or contrasting AA in a place with AA in another? Do I ever put down some AA activities not participating in this aspect of AA? Am I informed about AA as a whole? Do I support AA as a whole in every way I can, or just parts that I understand and approve of? Am I considerate of AA members as I want them to be of me. Do I spout platitude about love while indulging and secretly justifying behavior and bristles of hostility, sorry, hospitality. Okay, our whole AA program securely founded on the principle of humility, that is to say, perspective, which implies, among other things, that we relate ourselves rightly to God and to our fellows, that we see ourselves as we really are, a small part of a great whole. Seeing the fellows thus, we shall enjoy group harmony. This is why AA traditions can confidently state our common welfare comes first. This does not mean some talk that an individual doesn't count too much. Is he to be swallowed up, dominated by the group? No, it doesn't seem to work that way. Perhaps there is society on earth more solicitous of personal welfare, more careful to grant the individual the greatest possible liberty to believe and action. Alcoholics Anonymous has no musts. Few AA groups impose penalties on anyone for nonconformity. We suggest we do not discipline, and that instead compliance and non-compliance with any principles of AA is a matter for the conscience of the individual. He is the judge of his own conduct. Those words of old time, judge not, we observe mostly literally. With individual members or groups, how shall it be sure that the common welfare does come first? How is it possible to be governed without government? If anyone can do as he pleases, how can you have anarchy? The answer seems to be that we AAs cannot really do as we please, though there's no constituted human authority to restrain us. Actually, the common welfare is protected by powerful safeguards. The moment that any action seriously threatens our common welfare, group opinion mobilizes to remind us our group conscience is to complain. If one persists, he may be so disturbed to get drunk. Alcohol gives him a beating. Group opinion shows him that he is often off the beat. His own conscience tells him that he is dead wrong. And if he goes too far, barleycorn brings him real conviction. So it is when we learn in matters deeply affecting the group as a whole, our common welfare comes first. Rebellion ceases and cooperation begins because it must have disciplines ourselves. Eventually, of course, we cooperate because we really wish we could see without substantial unity there can be no AA, and that without AA there can be little lasting recovery for anyone. We gladly set aside personal ambitions whenever these might harm. We humbly confess that we are but a small part of a great whole. Thank you for letting me do service.
Thank you, Marilyn. Great job. We appreciate you. And now it is time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Speaking of there are no musts, we often hear that there are no musts in the program. So Gandalf is going to come in and tell us what the book actually has to say about that.
An old alcoholic, Gandalf, whatever you want to call me.
late for dinner. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, ask God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not drink.
Bam. Thank you, brother. Appreciate your
Thank you.
service tonight.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we studied the Big Book, we used the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we're going to start our recap on page 153, which will be read by Larry, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Mayella. After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at our study portion, which Mayella reads. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
There's a tongue twister. Basically, in English, what that means is we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the question gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor. Please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point. We did not just wake up this morning and said, oh, this is what we're going to study tonight. This is a 94-week book study from beginning to end, which started here in my house with 12 other alcoholics on January 7th, 2020. Just before COVID hit us, and we ended up going 100% virtual, which we just celebrated our 5th birthday 2 weeks ago as a Zoom group. So it's been a wonderful journey. And we opened the book and we started the title page, the promise of, or the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. From there, we go through the preface and all the forewords with this question format. The answers always come out of the book. Nobody has to dream up anything wild or say, well, this is what I think about it. The answers always come out of the book. From there, we went into the doctor's opinion, which explains 3 vitally important things about our disease. 1, that we have a spiritual malady. 2, that we have a mental obsession. And 3, that we have an allergy that will set on the phenomenon of craving. After we get through the doctor's opinion, we go into the classic 12-step call by Bill Wilson himself through his story. And while there are many things that I cannot relate to Bill, like I didn't serve in the First World War and I wasn't a stockbroker, boy, I sure drank like he did, and the cheaper rot got the better. Because it generally meant that I could drink more. So from there we go into chapter 2. There is a solution that shows us 2 vitally important things on page 17. 1, that they have given us a fellowship, but that in itself would not be enough, that they've also given us a program of spiritual program of recovery. From there we go into Chapter 3, more about alcoholism, which is only about two things. It's about the mental obsession and untreated alcoholism. From that point, we move into the chapter to the agnostics, which I think is one of the greatest pieces of literature written on the planet. And it gives me a pathway to let go of old ideas and old beliefs and open my heart and mind to new ideas and new beliefs. Then we move into how it works. And while how it works presents the 12 steps for the first time to all of us, that chapter is about two things and two things only. How to take steps 3 and 4. And it gives us the prayers we'll use, the actions we take, and show us the promises that result from using the prayers and taking the actions. After that, we move into chapter 6, into action. And in 16 short pages, it takes us from step 5 to step 11. It takes us through 7 steps in just 16 short pages. From there, we go into the chapter working with others, and it's really, even though it doesn't use the word sponsorship, it is an example of how to sponsor. Anybody ever have a sponsor tell them, you gotta? There's no place in that chapter where it tells me I get to tell anybody that they gotta. What it says is that I share my own story with them of what happened to me, and I'm trying to show them a pathway. From there, we get start going into the pre-Al-Anon chapters to wives, the family afterward, and to the employers. And there's a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous that say, well, I don't need that chapter. I don't got a wife. I don't got a job. I don't got a family. But yet all 3 of those chapters are about us practicing our own program of recovery in the most important places in our lives, our home, our workplace, and with those that we love the most. From there, we're in this chapter, chapter 11, and a vision for you. So here's something that I want to say real quick, and then I'll shut up and we'll get on with it. There are 11 chapters in our big book, but our 12th chapter, the 12th chapter in your big book, is your own personal story. And it's in the process of being written right now as we all go through the process of recovery. So what is your 12th chapter in your big book supposed to be like? I believe that if we follow all of the instructions in the first 11 chapters, we will have that. Once we're done with this chapter, we do about 6 weeks on Dr. Bob's story through the question and answer format. We do 2 weeks of the traditions through the question and answer format as well. And then week 94, we finish out with the spiritual experience for a 4th and final time. We're directed throughout the study to go to the spiritual experience 3 different times, but we do that as a standalone night. And then the buzzards will circle us back around, and we'll start at the title page the week after we finish. So glad you are on this journey with us. Some of you have been on this journey with us our whole 5 years, and I hope that everyone will continue to join us. So thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And just a reminder, please be aware that the first hour and a half of the meeting is recorded in audio only, so we can put it on our website and on our YouTube channel. So I've got 1 hand so far, but while we are reading our recap, or while Larry is reading our recap, we can have some other folks put their hands up. So come on in, Larry.
It's either that or Kenny answers all the questions tonight.
Well, that works.
I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. In the chapter Working with Others, you gathered an idea of how we approach and aid others to health. Suppose now that through you, several families have adopted this way of life. You will want to know more of how to proceed from that point. Perhaps the best way of treating you to a glimpse of your future will be to describe the growth of the fellowship among us. Here is a brief account. Years ago, in 1935, one of our number made a journey to a certain western city. From a business standpoint, his trip came off badly. Had he been successful in his enterprise, he would have been set on his feet financially, which at the time seemed vitally important. But his venture wound up in a lawsuit and bogged down completely. The proceeding was shot through with much hard feeling and controversy. Bitterly discouraged, he found himself in a strange place. Discredited and almost broke, still physically weak and sober but a few months, he saw that his predicament was dangerous. He wanted so much to talk with someone, but whom? One dismal afternoon, he paced a hotel lobby, wondering how his bill was to be paid. At one end of the room stood a glass-covered dictionary of local churches. Down the lobby, a door opened into an attractive bar. He could see the gay crowd inside. In there, he could find companionship and release. Unless he took some drinks, he might not have the courage to scrape an acquaintance and would have a lonely weekend. Of course, he couldn't drink. But why not sit hopefully at a table, a bottle of ginger ale before him? After all, had he not been sober 6 months now? Perhaps he could handle, say, 3 drinks, no more. Fear gripped him. He was on thin ice. Again, he was the old insidious insanity. The first drink. With a shiver, he turned away and walked down the lobby to the church directory. Music and gay chatter still floating to him from the bar. But what about his responsibilities, his family, the men who would die because he would not know how to get well? Ah, yes, those other alcoholics. There must be many such in this town. He would phone a clergyman. His sanity returned, and he thanked God. Selecting a church at random from the directory, he stepped into a booth and lifted the receiver. His call to the clergyman led him presently to a certain resident of the town, who through formerly able and respected, was then nearing the nadir of alcoholic despair. It was the usual situation: home in jeopardy, wife ill, children distracted, bills in arrears, and standing damaged. He had a desperate desire to stop, but saw no way out, for he had earnestly tried many avenues of escape. Painfully aware of being somehow abnormal, the man did not fully realize what it meant to be alcoholic. can read it at the bottom. When our friend related his experience, the man agreed that no amount of willpower he might muster could stop his drinking for long. A spiritual experience, he conceded, was absolutely necessary, but the price seemed high upon the basis suggested. He told how he lived in constant worry about those who might find out about his alcoholism. He had, of course, the familiar alcoholic obsession that a few knew of his drinking. Why, he argued, should he lose his remainder of his business, only to bring still more suffering to his family by foolishly admitting his plight to people from whom he made his livelihood? He would do anything, he said, but that. Being intrigued, however, he invited our friend to his home some time later, and just as he thought he was getting control of his liquor situation, he went on a roaring bender. For him, this was the spree that ended all sprees. He saw that he would have to face his problems squarely, that God might give him mastery.
Thank you, Larry. And we've got 3 hands for answer readers. We can work with 3, but if one or two more want to raise their hands for question answering, that would be great. And Mayella, come on in and read our study for the week. You are muted, my dear.
Mayella, recovered alcoholic. Sorry, guys. One morning, he took the bull by the horn and set out to tell those he feared what his trouble had been. He found himself surprisingly well received and learned that many knew of his drinking. Stepping into his car, he made the rounds of people he had heard. He trembled as he went about, for this might mean ruin, particularly to a person in his line of business. At midnight, he came home exhausted, but very happy. He has not had a drink since. As we shall see, he now seems a great deal to his community, and the major liability of 30 years of hard drinking have been repaired in 4. But life was not easy for the 2 friends. Plenty of difficulties presented themselves. Both saw that they must keep spirituality alive. One day they called up the head nurse of a local hospital. They explained their need and inquiring if she had a first-class alcoholic prospect. She replied, yes, we got a porker. He's just beating up a couple of nurses. Goes off his head completely when he's drinking. But he's a grand chap when he's sober. Though he's been in here 8 times in the last 6 months, understand he was once a well-known lawyer in town. But just now we've got him strapped down tight. There was a prospect, all right, but by the description, none too promising. The use of spiritual principles in such case was not so well understood as it is now. But one of the friends said, put him in a private room. We'll be down. 2 days later, a future fellow of Alcoholics Anonymous stared glassily at the stranger beside his bed. Who are you fellows, and why this private room? I was always in a ward before, said one of the visitors. We're giving you a treatment for alcoholism. Hopelessness was written large on the man's face as he replied, oh, but there's no use. Nothing would fix me. I'm a goner. The last 3 times I got drunk on the way home from here. I'm afraid to go out the door. I can't understand it. For an hour, the two friends told him about their drinking experience. Over and over, he would say, "That's me, that's me. I think I drink like that." The man in the bed was told of the acute poisoning from which he suffered, how it deteriorated the body of an alcoholic and warped his mind. There was much talk about the mental state preceding the first drink. "Yes, that's me," said the sick man. "The very image. You fellows know your stuff all right. But I don't see what good it'll do. You fellows are somebody I was once, but I'm a nobody now. From what you tell me, I know more than ever. I can't stop." At this, both the visitors burst into a laugh. Said the future fellow anonymous, "Damn little to laugh about what I can't see." The two friends spoke of their spiritual experience and told him about the course of action they carried out. He interrupted, "I used to be strong for the church, but that won't fix it. I've prayed to God on hangover mornings and sworn that I've never touched another drop, but by 9 o'clock I'd be boiled as an owl." Next day found the prospect more receptive. He had been thinking it over. "Maybe you're right," he said. "God ought to be able to do anything." Then he added, "He sure didn't do much for me when I was trying to fight this booze racket alone." On the third day, the lawyer gave his life to the care and direction of his Creator and said he was perfectly willing to do anything necessary. His wife came scarcely daring to be hopeful, though she thought she saw something different about her husband already. He had begun to have a spiritual experience. That afternoon he put on his clothes and walked from the hospital a free man. He entered a political campaign, making speeches, frequently meant gathering places of all sorts, often staying up all night. He lost the race by only a narrow margin, but he had found God, and in finding God had found himself. That was in June 1935. He never drank again. He too had become a respectful and useful member of this community. He had helped others. He had helped other men recover, and this is a power in the church from which he was long absent.
Thank you. And now we are going to go back to where Mayella started reading, and we will do the questions out of our study guide. And for our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. And if those answering the questions lose their place, please allow me to direct them back to the correct sentence. That way we don't have to worry about 4 or 5 people all talking over each one.
I just want to point out, Trish, Terry has a halo tonight. Pickled Chips has a halo over her head. I'm just saying, maybe it's a spiritual experience kind of night. Go ahead. Sorry. Had to.
So our batting order tonight will be Kenny, Nancy, Stephanie, and Terry. So you'll all get to read quite a bit.
Larry raised his hand also.
And Larry. Thanks, Larry.
And Nancy, you'll need to unmute. And you too, Pickle Chips.
So we go. Our first question, back on page 156. What did Dr. Bob do one morning?
Who's that going to, Kenny?
Kenny.
Okay, one morning he took the bull by the horns and set out to tell those he feared what his trouble had been.
Thank you. And Nancy, he was surprised to learn what 2 things?
He found himself surprisingly well received and learned that many knew of his drinking.
Thank you. Stephanie, he got into his car and did what?
Stepping into his car, he made the rounds of people he had hurt.
You. And Terry, why did he tremble as he made his amends?
He trembled as he went about, for this might mean ruin, particularly to a person in his line of business.
That's for sure. And Larry, a two-part question, two parts, but still one sentence. A, when did he finally come home? And B, what shape was he in?
At midnight, he came home exhausted, but very happy.
Thank you. Back to you, Kenny. How well did it work for him?
He has not had a drink since.
You.
And I'll be coming in with a few comments this evening, and here comes the first one. Dr. Bob had his last drink on the morning of June 10th, 1935. He lived the rest of his life sober and passed away November 16th, 1950. And that means we have an anniversary coming up here in another month or so of about 90 years of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Thank you. And Nancy, the major liabilities resulting from 30 years of hard drinking were repaired in how many years?
As we shall see, he now means a great deal to his community. And am I on the right one?
Yep.
Yes.
The major liabilities of 30 years of hard drinking have been repaired for.
And another comment, Dr. Bob had his last drink June 1935, and this book was published in April 1939, so just a little under 4 years' time.
And Stephanie, was life easy and comfortable for these two men?
But life was not easy for the two friends.
Thank you. Terry, what did they have plenty of?
Plenty of difficulties presented themselves.
You. And Larry, what did both of them realize they must do?
Both saw that they must keep spiritually active.
Absolutely. And Kenny, so what did Dr. Bob do one day?
One day they called up the head nurse of the local hospital.
Another comment, the date was June 11th, 1935, the following day after Bob's last drink. I want to point out the significance of this. So many people say, oh, I don't have something to give. With less than 24 hours sober, Dr. Bob went on his first 12-step call.
Thank you, Jamie. And Nancy, he explained their need and asked for what?
They explained their need and inquired if she had the first-class alcoholic recipe.
Thank you. And Stephanie, what was the nurse's reply?
He replied, yes, we've got a corker.
Thank you. And Terry, what shape was the prospect in at the time of the call? And read the rest of the paragraph, please.
He's just beat up a couple of the nurses. Goes off his head completely when he's drinking. But he's a grand chap when he's sober, though he's been here 8 times in the last 6 months. Understand, he was once a well-known lawyer in town. But just now we've got him strapped down tightly.
Thank you.
And another comment, notice that there is an asterisk there referring to the footnote regarding Bill and Dr. Bob's 12-step call on Bill D. It reads, this refers to Bill and Dr. Bob's first visit to AA number 3. See the Pioneers section. This resulted in AA's first group at Akron, Ohio in 1935. And a follow-up comment, keep in mind, Dr. Bob was only approximately 24 hours sober at this time.
Thank you. And Larry, what did they think of their chances of success with this guy?
Here was a prospect, all right, but by the description, none too promising.
Thank you. Kenny, what was not well understood at the time?
The use of spiritual principles in such cases was not well understood as it is now.
You. Nancy, what did Dr. Bob ask the nurse to do? 2 sentences, please.
Which number question is that one?
The first question on page 157, and your answer starts with
Okay.
friends.
But one of the friends said, put him in a private room.
Keep going.
We'll be down.
Thank you. That's it. And Stephanie, what happened 2 days later?
2 days later, a future fellow of Alcoholics Anonymous stared glassily at the strangers beside his bed.
You. And Terry, what did Bill D ask Bill and Dr. Bob? In 2 sentences for you.
Who are you fellows, and why this private room? I was always in a ward before.
You. Larry, how did they answer him?
Said one of the visitors, we're giving you a treatment for alcoholism.
Thank you. Kenny, what was written on his face?
Hopelessness was written large on the man's face as he replied, "Oh, but that's no use."
Thank you. And Nancy, did Bill D believe there could be any hope for him? And read the rest of the paragraph, please.
Nothing would fix me. I'm a gunner. The last 3 times I got drunk on the way home from here. I'm afraid to go out the door. I can't understand it.
You. Stephanie, what happened over the next hour?
For an hour, the 2 friends told him about their drinking experiences.
Thank you. Terry, what was Bill D's response? 3 sentences, please.
Over and over, he would say, that's me, I drink like that.
You. Larry, what was the man on the bed told?
The man in the bed was told of a acute poisoning from which he suffered. How it deteriorates the body of an alcoholic and warps his mind.
You. And Kenny, there was a lot of talk about what?
There was much talk about the mental state preceding the first drink.
Thank you. Nancy, what did Bill D say as Bill W and Dr. Bob told their stories? 5 sentences, please.
That's not me, said the absent man, the very image. You fellows know you're still all right. You fellows know your stuff all right, but I don't see what good it will do. You fellows are somebody. I was once, but I'm a nobody now. From what you tell me, I know more than ever. I can't stop.
You.
At this,
That's it.
I'm done.
Thank you. And Stephanie, when Bill D said he knew it could not work for him, what did the 2 do?
At this, both the visitors burst into a laugh.
Thank you. Terry, what did he have to say about their laughing at him?
Said the future fellow anonymous, damn little to laugh about that I can see.
That's right. And Larry, another 2-part question. They then spoke of what? And then what did they tell him?
Then the 2 friends spoke of their spiritual experience and told him about the course of action they carried out.
You. And Kenny, to which he replied what?
He interrupted. I used to be strong for the church, but that won't fix it.
Thank you. Nancy, a 2-part question. A, he said he prayed and swore what? B, how well did it work for him?
I prayed to God on hangover mornings and swore that I'd never touch another drug. But by 9 o'clock, I'd be boiled as an owl.
You. Stephanie, what did Bill and Dr. Bob find the next day?
Next day found the prospect more receptive.
Thank you. Terry, what had the prospect been doing?
He had been thinking it over.
You. Good plan. And Larry, what did he say to them? 2 sentences.
Maybe you're right, he said. God ought to be able to do something.
Anything. Thank you.
Anything, yeah.
And Kenny, then what did he add?
Then he added, he sure didn't do much for me when I was trying to fight this booze racket alone.
You. Nancy, you get another 2-part question. A, what did the lawyer do on the 3rd day following his last drink? And B, he further said he was willing to do what?
On the 3rd day, the lawyer gave his life to the care and direction of his Creator, and said he was perfectly willing to do anything necessary.
And another comment. We must wonder where the idea of going to meetings and not drinking as a solution to alcoholism came from. The message from this textbook is take the steps and take them early in sobriety.
You. And Stephanie, a 2-part question for you. A, how hopeful was his wife when she came to see him? And B, what did she think she saw in him?
His wife came, scarcely daring to be hopeful, though she thought she saw something different about her husband already.
Yeah. And Terry, what had begun to take place within him?
He had begun to have a spiritual experience.
And another comment. If step 3 is taken honestly and humbly, an effect, sometimes a very great one, is felt at once. Page 63.
Larry, what happened that afternoon?
That afternoon, he put on his clothes and walked from the hospital a free man.
Wonderful. And Kenny, what did he try to do?
He entered a political campaign, making speeches frequently men's gathering places of all sorts, often staying up all night.
You. Nancy, how successful was he?
He lost the race by only a narrow margin.
Thank you. And Stephanie, but what had he found?
But he had found God, and in finding God, he found himself.
You. Jerry, when was that?
That was June 1935.
Comment. That was the same month and year Dr. Bob had his last drink.
And Larry, how long was he able to stay sober?
He never drank again.
Thank you. Kenny, what has he regained?
He too has become a respected and useful member of his community.
Thank you. And Nancy, the final question, and it's a 2-part question. A, who has he helped? And B, in what did he become a power?
He has helped other men recover and is a power in the church from which he has long absent.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for reading and being of service. So if you have experience with the portion of the book that we just read, please feel free to share. And be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And just a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. So we're now opening up for comment, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences on the part that we just read. Terry, your hand is still up. Are you coming in or did it not go down?
I just am coming in with a question. How long did Bill have at this time? Because it just says years ago in 1935, one of our number made a journey to a certain western city. So I was wondering, he also didn't have very long, did he?
6 months. And in that 6 months, he had worked with 96 other alcoholics, and not one of them stayed sober until he came across Dr. Bob. But he stayed sober.
Okay, great, thank you. I knew that, but I just couldn't remember how long it was. Okay, and I'm not going to comment at this time.
Alrighty then. So the floor is open, folks, and it is your meeting. So who would like to come in and share?
So we're putting the monks back on, right?
I was just going to say that. Hi, Mayella.
I can share now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in 2019, I went through outpatient rehab, and I was able to know about the allergy and know why I was going through what I was going through, but I didn't really learn about AA and the recovery part of my recovery till I went into the rooms of AA. I'm not saying that the outpatient program didn't work. I'm just saying that I relate a lot to when they go into the hospital and they're talking to the prospector, because it wasn't until I heard your story, it wasn't until I heard the language of the heart that I was convinced. I stopped fighting it. I found an ease. It's more like I felt like I was in a safe place where I could relate and be free, so to speak. So I relate to what we read. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for being here tonight. Who's next?
Deep contemplation.
I will jump in then. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And, I can't say that the first few people that I talked to, or the first several people, had talked to me much about the alcohol poisoning and the threefold disease. They may have, but I don't remember hearing it. But what I do remember is what Bill said what Bill D said to Bill W and Dr. Bob. That's me, you know your stuff, and I don't see what it'll be. I don't see what good it'll do. But then how they also talked about, as they were talking to him, he kept saying, that's me, I drink like that, I can relate to that. Because I could relate to the stories. I could relate to the feelings. I certainly could recognize the laughter of the other people. I didn't see that there was anything to laugh about when I first came in, just like he did. But when I finally learned how to laugh in these rooms, I could laugh because I could relate to what other people were saying. And it certainly wasn't a vicious, haha, look at you, look what you did. But it was more of, I can relate what you did, I did that too. And, I also relate a lot to them speaking of their spiritual experience and him saying, I used to be strong for the church, but that won't fix it. Even while I was drinking, I still went to church. But it was easier for me to go than to try to fight with my parents about why I wasn't going to go. So it really didn't mean anything that I was going. I went because I liked the music, I liked singing, I liked being in the choir. But what else was going on in church really didn't do a whole lot for me. I didn't really have a connection with God. I didn't have really a connection with anybody. I was hanging out in the back with the other teams in the choir. But like it said at the end, he found God, and in finding God, he found himself. And once I was able to come into the rooms, and once I was able to find the God of my understanding, and not just recognize that there was a God out there, but start forming a relationship with him, I was able to find me and who I was. In the rooms and other people's stories, and also by finding me in the book. And once that happened, I was able to have more of a voice to share my story with other people. Because my story is a lot different from other people. I didn't drink as long as a lot of people. I didn't drink as much as a lot of people. And I always felt like it wasn't good enough. Didn't feel like I was good enough, then I drank. So I didn't feel, and then I didn't feel like I was good enough to be here because I didn't drink as much as you folks did, or some folks did. But then I came to realize that that didn't really matter, because I knew what alcohol was doing to me, and I knew where it was taking me. But by finding God, I found myself, and by finding myself and my voice, I'm able to help other people recover. I'm able to sponsor other women and be comfortable with it, and help them in, not just people in recovery, but other friends of mine not even in the rooms. Now it sometimes comes to me, I got a problem with this, I got a problem with that. And being able to be of service to other people is so much better than where I was before I came in the rooms, before I was drinking, while I was drinking. And isn't that really what life is all about, of what can we do for other people, not what can I get out of this? Thanks. And I forgot to set the timer on myself. So who's next?
A lot of time to fill tonight. Tim, are you clapping or raising your hand?
I don't know the difference. I just go with the little hand.
Hey, Tim.
Good seeing you all. I'm Femi. I am a grateful but not cured alcoholic. This is just my experience, but I like when it was talking about, it said, let's see, the last 3 times I got drunk on my way home from there. I'm afraid to go out the door. I cannot understand it. I'm a very low bottom drinker. Not everybody can relate, but it is my story. I started drinking at a very young age, and my first rehabilitation center was at 13 because my parents knew I had a problem, but I didn't. And, what's really kind of like, now that I'm educating myself on my own story, I don't really remember anybody ever really 12-stepping me. I remember going to institution after institution, rehab, sober living, all these things, all these programs, and I just wasn't listening because I couldn't tell you hardly anything about any of those places. Now, if you fast forward to all the times I've been incarcerated, I actually remember this feeling that, man, this time I'm not going to drink. I'm done with it. I'm getting out of prison. I'm getting out of jail, and I'm not going to drink. I'm going to get my life together. And I meant that 100%. And I meant that all the way up till the door. And I'm telling you, between that door of what I really wanted and what happened was totally night and day. Because as soon as I hit that door, within 20 minutes, I was going to a liquor store. And in between that series, just that single door, there was no way for me to stop that action. But something happened this last year, in 23, that when I finally hit that real bottom, God just picked me up. My higher power picked me up, placed me in certain places, introduced me to certain people. And when they talked about the acute poisoning, the allergy, and the obsession, all of a sudden, one person, maybe many, but that just made sense to me. And since that day, I've actually started, trying to educate myself and really be willing to do the steps and to see, what's in this book. And now it's just after, from 13 years old to 53, it makes sense, but I like the idea that, where the idea that I can never drink or drug again has to be smashed. Because I do look at alcohol as poisoning. You know, I know for a fact that if I drink, I am to die. And as somebody once told me, me going to prison was actually a good thing because I at least had another chance. And that's something I never thought I'd ever say. You know, I've spent 85% of my life incarcerated and never knew until here recently that was actually God saving my life for me to have this, what I call this grace, this mercy. And there's a really cool song called Mercy Came Through the Door. I never knew that mercy would be another alcoholic. And I'm very grateful to be here today. And I'm glad that I can be educated to the point that it is poison. And once I consume that, I have no chance. Because it's just like being incarcerated. On that one side of the door, I really wanted to stop, and on that other side, I just couldn't. But I'm glad y'all are here tonight. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Tim. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Penny, you're unmuted. Did you want to come in? And it's okay to say no.
Okay, no.
I'll go ahead and jump in. Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And I love how this week starts off. One morning he took the bull by the horns and set out to tell those he feared what his trouble had been. He found himself surprisingly well received and learned that many knew of his drinking. You know, this is the same day that he took his last drink. Bill gave him 2 beers before he went into surgery to keep him from having DTs. And he performed his surgery, and then he went out and he was making his amends. Bill and Ann were worried about where he was, thought he was out drinking, but yet he was out taking care of business. I say it all the time to people I work with. There are 2 things that I can never give any other alcoholic: the gift of desperation of a drowning man, or the willingness. You know, my priorities are not what I say they are today. My priorities are what I do. What gets done today is obviously a priority, and what doesn't obviously was not, and anything that I tell myself differently is a lie that I'm telling to me. Sobriety, God and sobriety have to come first above everything in my life. The men and women that I have been blessed to work with, I use tonight's reading, especially working with Bill D, alcoholic number 3, as the way to 12-step people. You know, here again, there's not anywhere in the book where it tells me I get to tell you that you gotta, or here's what you need to do, or any of those things. I do make suggestions. I do ask people questions so that they can come up with the answers through looking for the truth for themselves. The idea of finding myself in this book, the best way that I know to find myself in this book is, while we read it as it is written in meetings and studies, is for me to read it in the first person. Because what happens is I become part of the story. I become part of the book. That's why I made the comment earlier that there's 11 chapters in this book. But the 12th chapter is our own personal story. What's it going to look like? And if I follow the directions, hopefully my story does not look like it's full of grandiosity and pride and ego. I don't know that I so much as have an ounce of humility in my body. but I know that humility is something that I recognize in others and can't see in myself. One of my favorite things to do, two things. One is reading the book with somebody. Now, while I'm driving down the road, they might be reading to me, and I'm going back and breaking things down in it to help them understand it better. But the gift and the joy that comes with this is I have no problem spending hours and hours of doing that with someone. I don't get this whole thing in Alcoholics Anonymous of, oops, the hour's up, I gotta go, see you later, bye. I don't get that. It's not the way that I was raised in Alcoholics Anonymous. And here's a question, just a thought. If we don't have an hour or a couple of hours to invest in our own sobriety, if we were drinking, would we have countless hours to invest in that? So there again, my priorities aren't what I say they are. My priorities are what I do. And if I continue to follow this pathway that's laid out in this book, it's so vitally important. Tonight is part of our history of the bare bones beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous. It has just as much impact in my life today as it had in somebody else's life the day that the book was published. Oops, and I'm going over because nobody's got their hands up. So if you want to shut me up, raise your hands. You know, I've known a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous over the years that are just meeting makers and not step takers. But if you truly want to become recovered from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, if you truly want to be restored to sanity, this is the only pathway I know. We don't have a monopoly on God. We don't have a monopoly on sobriety, but we have one that is the most effective that I know about in the world. And it was mentioned a little earlier about detoxes, treatment centers, IOPs, and so on. They have a completely different agenda than we have in Alcoholics Anonymous. Their job is to detox you and to say, it's okay if you don't make it, you can come join us again. However, we are the only organization in the world that I know of, including churches, that when somebody has a slip, we welcome you back with open, loving arms. We're the only group of people I know in the world where you can be one of our group officers, a treasurer for existence, go out and get drunk on our money, on the group's money, and yet we welcome you back with open, loving arms. And it's because everything that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is about a spiritual pathway. I know that if I continue to follow the spiritual pathway, I will get to enjoy moments of humility as I travel the road. I will get to work with some magnificent people whom I dearly love. But guess what? If I don't put myself out there, if I don't make it known in meetings that I'm available, that'll never ever happen. If I just go to speaker meetings and hide out in speaker meetings and don't ever talk, how will I ever know if I have something that somebody else wants? We can become very well educated in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's all it is education. But the knowledge put into action becomes recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Nancy, your hand was up and then it went down. Are you coming in? And then
Yes, just a little bit. Nancy, alcoholic. Thank you, everyone, for all your share. I've been going to this meeting since May of 2020. And I have never learned so much about this book that I had in this meeting, with the questions of every sentence and all that, and also I mean I don't like sharing because I don't think I have anything to share. But when I hear people share, I can say, "Oh my gosh, that's me! Oh my gosh, it happened to me, this and that." I could relate to everyone, but I don't know how to like express that about myself, saying all these things that I did this and I did that and I feel this way and I feel that way. And somebody suggested to me that I should start sharing, even when I don't know how to share. And that's the idea of this book and Vision for You. I love this Vision for You because it gives me a lot of hope and happiness that there is a solution in my problem, and not just myself, but all of the people that are here in AA. And it's yeah, I don't like what I said. I don't know how to share it, what to share about, but I do understand that by sharing, I get to give myself, let myself be known by other people, and I'm gonna keep sharing until I'm used to it. That's it.
Thanks, Nancy. Glad you're here and always happy to hear from you. Hi, Larry. Come on in.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. I like this. I like this part. Because this is where Bill and Dr. Bob, kind of get together, and Bill, in Bill's story, he has an experience which is much different in that he has this peppermint patty experience, a mountaintop experience, there at the hospital, and where Bill has somewhat of a Christian or religious background that he but he kind of he's kind of reserved about it, but he's thinking about it, and there in the hospital he's thought about it, and after Abby talks to him, he's still thinking about it, and there where he prays, and he lets God in. That's what happens, he lets God in after all the thinking and result. He lets God in, and God comes in with such a rush. And then here in Vision for You, Bob, it's very different. Bob, comes in and Bill talks to him, and you say, where is this, what happened here? But you see that the same thing happens to Bob, because something happens. He lets God in, because in 24 hours, what's he doing? He's making a phone call to a hospital, wanting to know if he can share. Is there another alcoholic that he can talk to? Why? There would be only one reason that he would want to share with another alcoholic, and that is he received something. He got something, and that reception that he got was a spiritual experience of sorts, and he wanted to give it away. And you can see it so vividly, even though the experiences were different, yet it was still the same process. Bill talked to 90 different people and didn't get them sober after his experience, and it probably was going to take that peppermint experience to keep him through and keep him sober for that. But then he gets it with Bob, and you see a whole different change in how Alcoholics Anonymous forms because of the two reunion of the two fellows and what we have today. And that's what we have to have. We have to have something that we have received, and we've all received it, the miracle of not wanting to drink, the miracle of the obsession. And that should make us want to share and to give it away and to tell others. The same thing that Dr. Bob did, the same thing that Bill did. And I'm so grateful for the miracle. That's all I got.
Thanks, Larry. Hi, Gandalf.
Hello, I'm Donald, and I am a very, very grateful, recovered but not cured alcoholic pickle. And I was sitting here trying to think of what I was going to say and stuff, and then all of a sudden I got a phone call, and it was from a newbie that I met on another meeting last night, and he only had 29 hours, and so he reached out today, which was really good and stuff. I tried to get him to come on here and stuff, but I don't think he's ready for a book study yet. But this section of the book says, a vision for you. We have a vision for you. The only thing is, you have to have a vision for yourself. And like it says in chapter 5, if you want what we have is right here in this book. All the steps, all the traditions, all the information that we need to stay sober and to deal with this little thing that we've got, which we call alcoholism. And it's not alcoholism, because we live with this on a daily basis. We all know that. But, back whenever in its infancy, when it was just being born, they realized that they had something in common. They had a common tie to keep them motivated, was that desire to stop drinking. And whenever we find somebody who has that desire, we need to nurture it as much as we can. We need to teach them what has been so freely given to us. And it's just amazing how that makes us feel. And it's getting late, and I'm going to pass the rest of my time on, so we don't get I don't have my Academy Award, so I'm going to get one of those things for that. So bless you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Gandalf. Pickle Chips, come on back in.
Hello, my friend. I'm Terry, Pickle Chips, recovered alcoholics. As a lot of you that know me, and the reason you know me is because I share and participate in this meeting, but I just love the history part of our fellowship. And whenever we get to this, I always reflect on how different AA might have been or been at all if these things didn't happen precisely as they happened. Especially Dr. Bob's willingness to go help another alcoholic when he had 24 hours. How is that possible? I would have been going, oh, you know what, I don't even have a day yet. I can't do that, But he was so willing to get out there and do what he needed to do to stay sober. And because of that, and because of Dr. Bill Wilson, we're sitting here today. almost 90 years later. That is just so remarkable. That it all began with these two guys, soon to be three. And what I like about alcoholic number three, it says that on the third day, the Lord gave his wife and his life and care and direction of his creator, as his creator. And then he began to have a spiritual experience. That gives me goosebumps every time. Because, a lot of people think a spiritual experience means, the burning bush and God calling them by name. And no, this guy had a spiritual experience by coming back to God. And that afternoon, he put on his clothes and walked from the hospital a free man. I love that. He's a free man, and he never had another drink. I just think this chapter is so full of hope. And it was hope for the hopeless, like number three. They walked in there for the first time. They saw hopelessness written on this guy's face, and he walks out 3 days later a free man. Just love it. And love you guys. Thanks for letting me pipe in.
Thanks,
Thank you, Terry.
Love you too. So, Jamie, would you like to read out our closing?
Yeah, I'm going to jump back in with one thought real quick, though. In tonight's recap, we read about Bill pacing the floor at the Mayflower Hotel. Had his business venture gone well, we wouldn't have Alcoholics Anonymous today. He probably would have done well in that business venture, no lawsuit, and he probably would have been off to the speakeasies doing what he knew to do so well. I have to believe that that is the divine hand of God in all of it. And we sit here almost 90 years later, becoming recovered from the hopeless state of mind and body. And I love this page, and this is where we find our 12th step prayer in this, and it gives us some great wisdom from page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, for being of service, for sharing, for reading, and just for being you. And we will close out in our usual pickle fashion. Since we can't gather around the table and hold hands, we hold our hands up in the screen, and that's the way we pray with and for each other. And we'll take a moment of silence for those still suffering inside and outside of these rooms. And we'll follow that with the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. And who brings us from shame to grace if we let him?
Our Father.
Our Father.
Father,
Who art in
Lord,
heaven,
Lord in heaven,
hallowed be
hallowed
thy
be
name.
thy name.
Thy
Thy
kingdom
kingdom come, thy
thy will
will
be
be done
done
on earth as it is in
as
heaven.
it is in heaven.
Give us this day our
This
daily
day
bread.
our daily bread.
And
Forgive us our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as
as
we
we
forgive
forgive
those
those
who
who trespass against
us.
us.
And
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Keep coming back.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody.